Welcome. I'm Ellen Piekolkiewicz, Executive Director of United Partners for Human Services. I am pleased to welcome you to the first webinar in the UPHS 2015 webinar series. 2 more webinars have been scheduled, so look for registration information, which will come out 10 days before the scheduled webinars. The webinars that are upcoming are September 23rd, 6 Strategies for Active Supervision, September 29th, hashtag Giving Tuesday, Plans That Work. Each webinar, including today's, will be posted to the UPHS website after the live event, and that website address is www.uphsfl.org. If you are participating today in the live webinar, you will be able to engage in the Q&A portion, which will be held at the end of the presentation. You are encouraged throughout the webinar to post your questions that will be then answered at the end. Today's webinar is LinkedIn for Nonprofit Professionals: How to Maximize the Benefits of LinkedIn for Your Long-Term Career Goals and for Your Current Nonprofit Employer. Our instructors today are Megan Hollis, Career Liaison with Florida State University Career Center, and Jim Hunt, Chief Operating Officer of Coaxis. And I'm pleased to welcome Megan first, who will do the first part of the presentation and then hand it over to Jim Hunt. Thank you, Megan and Jim, for helping us out today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Megan Hollis, and I'm the Career Liaison at Florida State University. I'm also the Senior Assistant Director for Experiential Learning there as well. So what I'm going to cover in my portion is LinkedIn for You, but also a couple tips about LinkedIn for You as a nonprofit professional as well. So overall, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with other professionals. When I'm talking to students about it in the Career Center, I explain it as kind of the professional Facebook. But overall, what I believe it does is it reduces the gap in hierarchy, but also gets you closer to connecting with people in your field and in other positions. So again, great way to connect with people on any level. Having a LinkedIn profile allows you to promote and also control your message. So that'll be a theme that we talk throughout today as well, being able to control what messages you put out to your membership, but also to people who are interested in partnering with you. So through LinkedIn, you can connect with other nonprofits, potential donors, and then supporters as well. Students are also having an increased presence on LinkedIn, so it's another great place to recruit for volunteers or interns. So in this section, we'll talk a couple tips for you. These are what I consider the basic components of a LinkedIn profile. And you notice they're pretty similar to what you might see on a resume in terms of having your education and experience referenced, and also some skills that you want to highlight. Having a photo makes your profile 14 times more likely to have your profile viewed. So that's one thing to remember. I know some people are skeptical about putting a photo on there, but it does increase the likelihood that your profile will be actually viewed. So quickly bear with me as we deal with technology. I want to try and pull up my LinkedIn profile so I can show you what one looks like. Here we go. So you can see my photo or my profile right now is in edit mode, which is the default mode that you'll view when you log into your LinkedIn profile. So just some elements, if you've never created a LinkedIn profile before, this is kind of the identification section that you might see on a resume, but it also goes through some sections that you can add. You can see LinkedIn is prompting me to add more different sections. All of these are available things that you can add to your profile. You can see they range from supported organizations to courses, volunteering opportunities, anything that's specific to you. So scrolling down, you'll get into your summary. You can see I've taken the short and sweet route with mine, and I'll explain some tips for creating a summary in a little bit. Moving down to experience, one thing to note that is you have the ability to move any of these sections up and down depending on where you'd like them to be placed. So this is kind of scrolling through experience, getting down to education, and if you hover over a section, normally an arrow will pop up and you can move a section up or down. So you can list things like organizations, any honors and awards that you've received, Scrolling on down, this is something that we'll talk about a little bit more in depth in a few slides, but the skills and endorsements section is definitely something that you want to take advantage of. It's an opportunity to highlight skills that you want to be noticed. You can also add certifications, any projects that you're working on, and tag other people in that project, any volunteer opportunities that you have, and then recommendations as well. And at the bottom, normally you'll see groups that people are members of. So you can see I'm a member of quite a few groups just based on trying to connect with people for the Career Center. And then you'll also see you have the ability to follow companies and organizations and any kind of interest areas that you have. Now, a couple tips for when you're putting your profile together. One thing that you have the ability to do is turn on or off notifications to your profile. So if you're putting it together maybe all in one sitting, you can just click the button and say, no, I don't want to publish all my updates right now. That might take away the ability to spam people as you're going through. So consider doing that if you're kind of sitting down for an hour putting it all together. You don't want people to be notified every time you add something. So that's something to do with this simple click of a button. But also if you go up here, you can see this is what's called my public URL, my public LinkedIn URL, and you can see that it's personalized to my name. So that's something that you can do pretty easily that kind of helps in terms of distributing your LinkedIn profile or, just making it easy to remember. And by clicking on that little gear right next to it, I can click right here and do that pretty easily. You can see Megan Hollis was taken, so I went with Hollis Megan. This feature also, you can see it's called my public profile, and it looks a little bit different from what you just saw. So using these features right over here, you can customize what people who you aren't connected with will see. So you can just click on or off a section depending on what you want people who you aren't connected with to see. So that's kind of a very quick overview of what a profile might look like. Okay, let's switch back. And I'm going to go into a couple sections specifically, starting off with your headline. So your headline, you can see I've shown some examples right up at the top. And for Dr. Calvin Williams, you can see he's got author, employer relations consultant, all the way down to speaker. And then for mine, I've simply listed my current job title. So there are a couple different ways that you can go with that, depending on what you want to highlight. When you're thinking of your headline, you want to think of it as a hook. So that would be the statement that you want people to read in order to kind of get more interested in reading the rest of your profile. So Calvin Williams wants people to know that he's available for things like speaking engagements. Another thing to remember is that your headline will show up in a Google search. So you can see down below where I've searched for Tracy Dowling. You can see right underneath her LinkedIn link, her location, but also the next steps are connecting organizations, seeking top talent. That's her headline. So think carefully about what you want to be included in this section. Okay, some general tips for when you're putting your headline together. You can see I've included some examples over on the left side, but on the right side, I've got some steps to think about when you're creating this. So the first step is to say what you are. So for example, you can see the middle section starts off with they're a fundraising consultant or a personal trainer or a recruiter. And next say who you help. So who's kind of the benefit of your services. And then step 3 would be say how you make their life or their work better. So what are kind of the benefits that somebody gets from working with you. And then the last step you can give is to provide proof that you're credible. So whether that's any certifications or you've been featured on something, keep that in mind. And if you want some more details about these steps, you can see the link for this article right here. Okay, again, when you're creating your LinkedIn headline, you want to think about using words related to your industry, but also trying to avoid overused buzzwords. So you can see in this graphic, LinkedIn has created a top 10 overused buzzwords used on profiles on LinkedIn. So be cognizant of things like this when you're creating kind of that hook to get people interested in your profile. Moving on to your professional summary. So again, these two kind of seem pretty similar, but again, your headline is going to be that hook that gets people interested and leads people into your summary. So when you're doing your summary, think of it as an elevator pitch. What would you say to somebody in 30 to 60 seconds that highlights who you are and what you're about? So these are some strategies that you can use to put yours together. First one would be a mission base. So what are you or your organization about that you want people to notice? Second one is maybe injecting some personality into that. So again, what are you interested in your work life or interested in your personal life that might be a hook for somebody to get to talk to you? Or, hold on, bear with me just a second. There we go. You can take the short and sweet approach. which is exactly what I did earlier. I just got a one-sentence summary, or you can take the blended approach, so blending that personality and that mission statement. And the last one would be to potentially highlight some accomplishments that you've had. So if you've won an award or you just got certified in something that's directly related to what you're trying to do or what you are doing, the summary is a great place to highlight that. Again, just emphasizing the importance of customizing your hyperlink. It's really effective to, again, direct people to your profile, but also remember how to access your profile. So if you're trying to pass it on to somebody, that's something that you can do as well, rather than having linkedin.com/ a bunch of numbers and letters that you can't remember. Okay. For recommendations, this is one of the bottom sections that you saw on my profile, was kind of providing getting people to provide you recommendations or providing other people with recommendations. Throughout my time either doing both of those, getting and giving recommendations, these are some traits that I've noticed that are really helpful to put either of those together. And also remember that recommendations are a great tool to promote supporters and helpers. So if you have an intern or a volunteer that's done a really good job, consider giving them a recommendation on LinkedIn. So I'm going to work through these steps and give you an example of what I mean by each of them. So starting with a hook, if I'm talking about a potential graduate or a graduate assistant that I have, let's call her Susan. The hook that I might use is, when I met Susan, I was immediately impressed by her drive and efficiency. So highlighting some specific skills. Next, you want to describe the relationship. So I might say, as my graduate assistant, we have worked together for 2 years on major university-wide events. The third step would be to share a notable trait. So again, something that you want to highlight or you want people to notice about Susan. Her attention to detail and professionalism impressed me, as well as key university staff, and made every project she touched successful. So that's kind of highlighting those specific traits. And then the fourth step would be to add a touch of personality. So about Susan, I might say, to make it even more impressive, she does it all with a smile and maybe a cup of coffee in her hand, because we know how relevant that is to our lives. And then the last thing you want to end with is your recommendation. So what do you want people to know about Susan? So what I might say is, Susan would be an incredible asset to any organization and will leave some big shoes to fill here when she graduates. So again, you can access a more detailed version of that strategy by clicking on this link here. Okay. Moving on to my next slide, down to skills. So again, that was that chart that you saw, and this is what it looks like here. One thing to remember about skills is that you can drag these in any order that you want them, or you can let LinkedIn rank them for you. You can see on the screen right now, they're ranked in order of how many people are endorsing you for that specific skill, starting at 48 for program evaluation, and moving down to 9 for grants. You have the ability to add any skills that you want by simply typing them in on your profile. And then if you want maybe somebody to notice your grant writing skills, you can just simply click and drag and move grants up above program evaluation. It all depends on what you want people to notice. And these are just a list of some other sections that you might consider. Again, don't feel like you have to use all of them, just the ones that are relevant to you. So any projects that you want to highlight, any awards that you've won, causes you care about, these are all things that you can add to your LinkedIn profile. And then finishing with some tips for how to strengthen your profile. Remember, we talked about keywords, so using those keywords relevant to your industry, and also making full use of the sections that are available, as we just talked about. But also make sure you're active on LinkedIn. You know, what I see a lot with some college students is when I'm talking to them about LinkedIn, and they say, "Oh yeah, I created this profile a couple years ago, but haven't really done a lot with it." Well, that's not really helping you. So Jim will give you some strategies about how to stay active and how to maintain an updated profile. I know I've said this twice already, but definitely customize your LinkedIn hyperlink. It's definitely good to do and to help you remember how to distribute it and remember what your profile link is. One thing that I've started doing is to include my customized hyperlink in my email signature. So that way anybody you're contacting can easily click on that and connect with you that way. It's an easy kind of passive way to build your connections. And also add examples of your work. So one thing that you can do on your profile for your experience section, I don't know if you remember seeing it, but you have the ability to upload images, documents, create posts, or upload slide PowerPoint presentations attached to a specific job opportunity. So if you want to talk about a specific project that you're talking about or that you've been working on and make sure people notice it right off the bat for your profile, upload it in that specific job. And then the last bullet point here is to personalize connection messages. When you hit that connect button, you have the ability to write a message to the person that you're connecting with. And the stock text that LinkedIn includes is something like, I'd like to add you to my connections on LinkedIn. One of my pet peeves when I get connection requests like that is it doesn't necessarily show that person spent a lot of time on considering maybe why we want to connect. So definitely put some time and effort into that message and say, it was great meeting you at that networking event. I'm looking forward to picking your brain about marketing strategies. Something simple like that is all you need to talk about, but put a little time and effort into that initial connection message. And then some tips for you as a nonprofit professional would be to join groups related to your cause. There are groups for everyone and everything on LinkedIn, whether it's a professional group or just an interest group. Definitely that is an easy way to connect with other people who kind of have your same interests or in your same field. Stay active. I know I said that before, but it's important, so I included it again. But make sure you're active on LinkedIn if you want to get some good feedback out of it. But also remember, with skills and endorsements and recommendations, you got to give good ones to get good ones. So endorse the people you are connected with, and if you can, provide them with a recommendation about their skills. But also follow your supporters. So if there is an organization that you've partnered with or has been a donor for you, look on LinkedIn and see if they have a profile for their organization or a group that you can be a part of. Just remember to support the people who support you. And then so just a couple tips for LinkedIn for your nonprofit. These are some things that you can do to create awareness of your organization. Create a company page, create a group, and then use the advanced search fields to find somebody who's passionate about your cause. So for creating a company page, you want to think of this as kind of your storefront or your front desk where people can go to find information about your organization. Again, it's like we said in the beginning, it's an opportunity for you to control the message about your nonprofit and promote specific events or services that you offer. And then also people have the ability to follow you. So by following you, people are automatically subscribed to any updates you post on your company page. It'll show up in their newsfeed on their homepage when they log into LinkedIn. So that's definitely a great way to create awareness. You can also create a group for your organization. And the benefits of having an active LinkedIn group are having a captive audience and a central place to discuss topics related to you and your organization. It's also a safe place to engage with supporters. If anybody wants to bring up a topic for suggestion, LinkedIn group is a great place to do that. Okay, and these are some of the resources that I've discovered along the way. LinkedIn has a specific page for nonprofits and some guides on how to create an effective page and group. And that one at the top, nonprofit.linkedin.com, is the one I mean. But definitely check out the rest of these. Some are more for your profile and some are more for nonprofit tips. So now I will pass the baton over to Jim and he'll give you some tips about marketing for your nonprofit.
Thank you, Megan, and good afternoon, everyone. I think we're now into afternoon. And Megan shared some excellent information and tips on how you can really create success, a great foundation. And what I'm going to do today is share with you a little bit more strategy and tactics for how I think that you can help for not only using LinkedIn as a good platform for your organization, but prospecting so that you can build awareness and support. So let me go back here, sorry. First and foremost, I would recommend you start building a prospect profile. So in addition to what you're doing on your own LinkedIn and for your organization, start thinking of what are my prospects going to look like and who are those prospects? They may be from different sectors and industries or a certain geographic area. They may come from a certain type of company or company size. And then you may even say, I want to talk to the CEOs, or I want to talk to the CFOs, or I want to talk to the designers. Pick and choose and start building a prospect profile. A lot of folks don't think about this, but this really begins the essence of how you really build and use your LinkedIn profile, both your professional and individual, on a day-to-day basis. I like to tell folks continuously that Make sure every time you log into LinkedIn, you have a clear plan and a focus for everything that you're going to do. It's critical because people are looking at your profile even when you're not aware of it. So there really are, I believe, some time on task. You'll hear me say that multiple times today. Some 3 key activities that you can do. Start out by, and if I'll say this, that you can do this daily or you can do this weekly, but I say reach out to 5 new prospects either per day or per week. Run the numbers, you can see them on the slide there. It'll start generating significant amount of targeted prospects. Now, does that mean you're going to connect with each one? No, but even a small percentage of those can build awareness, support, advocacy, and ambassadors for you and your organization. Follow that up by committing to do a monthly outreach campaign. That's critical for you to make good use of LinkedIn. Is set up an outreach campaign that can have a number of pieces that we'll talk about in a little bit, but you've got to allocate some key time to that. And then a lot of people forget to work their LinkedIn mailbox and follow up with leads. People that are both looking at your profile and or emailing you through LinkedIn have a serious reason for doing that, and you've got to make sure you follow up. It may be not necessarily business or support with that individual, but they may know others to hook you up with. And then properly set up and position your campaign to generate a stronger response rate. This is really monthly marketing and lead prospecting generated that's all done with keeping good time on task. So when I say prospects, you may think, well, I'm really not, quote, in business. Everybody's in business, everybody's in sales, whether it's for yourself, your organization, or your causes. So when I say prospects, I'm speaking of volunteers, supporters, donors, and maybe the biggest area is influencers. These are people that you can connect with and gain influence with. They may not be a donor, but they may know that person who could be your donor. They may not be your supporter, but they could be a great ambassador or advocate for you. You can use LinkedIn's advanced search function and search by keywords and specific criteria, and you'll have a good chance to build your awareness and the influence for your organization. Megan talked about it. I'm going to just touch on it because it is critically important, is not using what I call the robo responses, and that's the generic feed and responses. 2 things that I look at all the time on LinkedIn when I'm either searching, researching, or responding, and that's, one is the profile picture professional. If you're on the beach or you cropped a picture, probably not going to be the best to work. And also, if you send me an invitation and you sent me that good old LinkedIn invitation, I'm probably not going to take it as seriously as you would like me to take it. Changing that, you can see that just a slight change to those things increases your response rates when you have outreach to people by greater than a 50% acceptance rate. It's actually almost up to a 70% acceptance rate. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but it generates a significant return. What happens when you personalize those connection requests? It's really the beginning of, I'll call it the sales cycle, the support cycle, whatever you want to call it, but it's requesting that opportunity to connect with them. Maybe next is a call or a meeting. That continues on to determining what your desired outcome is from that connection. And then don't hesitate, and I think a lot of us overlook this, is the opportunity to have an introduction or referral from a friend and connect with your prospect. So if you say, hey, I want to reach out to Megan Hollis, but I don't know her directly, go to her LinkedIn profile, see who she knows that you know. It's going to generate all that information for you. And then reach out to Ellen and say, Ellen, I know you know Megan. Would you mind making an introduction? Well, we all know how relationships are built. That's just the same way that can be done on LinkedIn. Certainly, all of our time is valuable, but there is a true return on the time you invest that I think maybe on any of the social platforms, you'll see most generated out of LinkedIn. When I speak to different organizations about social media in general, I always put LinkedIn at the top of the list. It's the one that has true value. What happens is, as I said, support, awareness, and if nothing else, you're building goodwill and developing that influence. I think the goals, you see them enumerated there, is target the percentage of prospects that you feel you want to do and reach, whether it's daily or monthly. Of those, determine how you're going to connect with them and get their commitment. And then whether it is a donor, an advocate, an ambassador, or a volunteer, what is that relationship worth to your organization? I can tell you, and anyone who has used LinkedIn in this way will tell you that the return is significant over traditional campaign expense, and certainly on the time also. One of the lines I use in talking about LinkedIn is act like you own it. And that's critical as you put your information out there. You need to put everything out there in the way that you act like you own it. You're responsible. You're the boss. Position yourself as a thought leader, you and your organization. That creates a tremendous ripple effect all the way through. When people look to you like, I can count on Megan for good information. Ellen always shares the best information on LinkedIn. People begin to say that. What you want to do is create what I call a memorable moment. And we've all had that, whether it's been on any of the social media platforms. But I'll be talking to someone and say, did you see the article that Ellen shared today on LinkedIn? And listen to what I just said there. I just gave a ringing endorsement to an individual and an organization that goes a long way. Create that memorable moment. You can't do that without sharing and highlighting others, which is critical. And then make sure that you're giving links and info that is going to lead to that memorable moment. I said something there that I'm going to stop and share again, and that's not just talk about your organization or yourself or your accomplishments. All that can be found on LinkedIn. But the greatest thing in building relationships is sharing information about others that you have found and that is from credible sources. That begins to expand your relationships. Megan spoke about joining groups, and it's critical for you to join groups, but don't forget to look at those groups where your targeted prospects are. So if your cause is for animal rights, where are those animal rights people going to be in groups? And join that group. LinkedIn lets you have up to 50 groups that you can participate in. And I think if you allocate your involvement in those groups according to, like Megan talked about, professional development and interests, but also where those you want to interact with, outreach to, where are they going to be? And then share posts to those groups a couple times a week. Stay top of mind with your views and clicks so people can see your status updates. And certainly most important is as you're sharing information with those groups or out generally, is that every bit of your content has value and remains balanced. We all know that and have experienced people that are either biased or blabbering to some degree on this cause or this way and taking such a strong opinion that it really negates all the positive that they're trying to do. So keep a balance in your reaching out to your targeted contacts. And then I think something that a lot of folks are unaware of is you can very quickly and easily generate an automated campaign on LinkedIn to develop some awareness. It's as simple and as easy as 5 hours a month. And 5 hours sounds like it, but spread it out. It'll certainly be worthwhile. And here's how I would allocate those 5 hours to really begin prospecting and building a campaign. Like Megan was talking about, allocate the time to your prospect profile. An hour of time, whether you're updating it, polishing it, expanding it. Optimized your prospect, or excuse me, build your prospect profile and then optimize your own profile. And then finally, search out, research, and join the LinkedIn groups that you find are best for you. It's going to take a little bit of time, but start looking at who's in those groups, who's participating, what kind of information are they sharing, and then work and review your plan. You can't just let us sit there and stay there. So breaking it down by month, now I'll tell you, you can do it in less than 30 minutes a day. And people say, I don't have 30 minutes to spare. I know myself, I can find 30 minutes. It's really 20 to 30 minutes. But if you work this, I guarantee you'll see the results. So budget your time, reaching out to 5 prospects, whether you choose to do that daily or weekly. Look at the people who are looking at your profile. Look at people you want to influence, or you see as influential and you want to build a relationship with. Set up your campaign. That's probably at least an hour's worth of time, as I mentioned earlier. And then work your LinkedIn inbox. May not take 10 minutes, but allocate that, send some emails to folks. Again, work your plan, measure your activity, and optimize your efforts. If you'll take that time, you're going to see a huge return on the relationships and the value of the time you've invested. I always like to share at the end of any of the webinars or talks that I give great resources. So LinkedIn now owns SlideShare, a great place to go find how some of the experts are doing things. Anytime you want to automate posts, I recommend using a digital dashboard. Hootsuite is my favorite. That allows you to tie your LinkedIn account to Hootsuite, and you can schedule your posts, prepare them in advance, and post them up for different days. Then there are a number of folks that I have highlighted on here that I think I've seen some of the best LinkedIn tips and involvement. Lewis Howes. Lewis is probably one of the leaders and longtime evangelists for LinkedIn. I'm going to butcher her name, but Viveka Von Rosen. Love her URL, Smart Blonde Media. She is a wealth of information about really building and expanding your awareness. Jason Alba, great website. I'm on LinkedIn Now What is his URL. That tells you Jason's just a down-to-earth guy. And then Josh Turner, who has a huge following for LinkedIn selling. And while you say, I really don't want to sell, he's going to help build relationship. He's got a new book out that is a quick, easy read. It's called Connect, and it's probably one of the most concise LinkedIn resources that I have found. Couple other closing things that if you're not using, this is what I call the easy quick connect, and you can do this from your smartphone. The LinkedIn Connect app is absolutely huge. If you want to touch people in your network, your LinkedIn network, and just a quick birthday greeting to them, a connection, recognizing them for a work anniversary, Connect is a quick, easy way to do that. Pulse kind of gathers the news and information from the areas of interest that you've indicated on LinkedIn, a great place. And the last thing is LinkedIn Publisher, which is a good guide for you to publish. So I hope that you have found this information to be useful and helpful. The PowerPoint presentation will be available to everyone afterwards, and hopefully some of you have submitted and given some questions, and we'll take those. So let us know if there are any questions, and I want to thank Ellen and team at United Partners for Human Services for having Megan and I here today. So let us take a look and see if there are any questions. All right, let's see. We do have some questions, and I'm gonna let Megan take this one. I'll read it and hand it off to her. How many skills should you list on your personal profile? Can you have too many or too few?
I think that's a great question, and the answer I'd give would be go for quality and not necessarily quantity. So you want to remember the skills on LinkedIn are really nothing unless you're endorsed by them as well. So remember the ones that you are endorsed for higher show up higher on your profile. So think about that when you're highlighting some. So it's not something that you have to establish right away. It's something that you will grow your skills, and people will recommend skills to you the longer you're on LinkedIn. So it's good to start with maybe 5 or 10 if you want a number. Okay. And if you have any other questions, feel free to type them into that question box that you see on the dashboard, and that's where they'll show up. But it's not looking like we're getting any others, so thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it. Feel free to connect with any of us if you have any further questions after this. Have a great day.